The Burial of Attila is a painting by Annie Louise Greidet de Rosy Tryon, created in 1808. Annie Louise was born on January 29th in 1768 in Montagris, France. He was a French painter during the Napoleonic era and an important figure in the early phase of Romanticism in French art. Romanticism was an artistic and literary movement that developed between the late 18th century and the mid-19th century. During this time, artists and writers focused more on feelings, imagination, and human experiences instead of logic and order. Romanticism moved away from the early ideas of calmness, harmony, and balance, and instead celebrated emotions, individuality, and choosing love when the odds were against it. Annie Louis began his art training in 1773 and became known for his neoclassical and romantic art styles. He soon became a student of Ante Louis Boullin, a neoclassical architect, and later joined the studio of Jacques Louis David in 1983. Annie Louis went on to win the Prix de Rome in 1789 for his painting Joseph Recognized by His Brother, which showed what he learned from Jacques David's neoclassical art style. Later, he painted The Sleep of Endymion in 1792, which showed new romantic emotions. And that artwork was influenced by the works of the novelist Chateaubriand. He also painted Audison and the French Generals in 1801, which combined James Macpherson Odeon poems with the spirits of the dead French generals who died in the French Revolution. Annie Louis expressed emotion through mysterious and dramatic elements. He became known for his exceptional draftsmanship, smooth finishes, sensitive to light, and unusual color effects. In 1806, Annie Louis was adopted by Benoit Francis Tryson, where he got his last name from. After inheriting his large fortune in 1915, Annie Louis started not to paint as much. He went back into the shadows and started to lean more towards poetry and writing poems about poetry. Even though Annie Louis started with neoclassical styles, he soon moved away from Jacques David's teaching towards a more poetic and literary approach that helped shape the early Romanticism. The Burial of Attila was inspired by Chateaubriand's novel Aletta, or The Love of the Two Savages in the Wilderness. The story takes place in the 17th century in America, where Attila, a young Christian woman, falls deeply in love with Shakakis, a Native American man who she saved from being imprisoned. However, Attila had promised her mother that she would devote herself to her religion instead of following her heart. The two young lovers' love was so passionate that she chose suicide to stop herself from giving into her strong romantic feelings towards Chakakis, even though he was willing to convert to her religion so that they would be able to marry. Chateaubriand helped inspire the return of Christianity with his book, Génie du Christian. At the end of the book, though, he added the story of Attila to show how the Christian religion can connect to the nature and passion of human hearts. N.A. Lewis uses the romance of the subject to his advantage by setting a dramatic ending. By drawing Chacatus and the missionary father, Abri, carrying out the body of Attila from the tomb where they had dug her out of. N.A. Lewis also adds a line from the Book of Job by Chateaubriand that said, "I have faded like a flower, I have withered like a grass in the field, on the cave of the tomb wall," to show the dramatic effects of Attila's death. N.A. Lewis used some of the aspects from his teacher David that was shown in his neoclassical style by the frieze-like arrangement and careful drawings. But N.A. Lewis painted with tender emotions and deep feelings that really captured the idea of romanticism. N.A. Lewis' work with the burial of Attila leaned into Christian traditions of Pieta, where they drew sad images of people holding dead ones, but he added his own interpretation of it. Attila was shown in all white to show the perfect Christian symbol of purity. Attila glowed in the dark surroundings of her, which showcased the grief of Tantalus and Father Abri, which made the work of the art feel emotional and clearly embodied the early Romanticism.